boring James Bond. I don't want Daddy James Bond. I want Daddy James Bond.
What?
Please make that the cold opening.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Here Speak podcast. I'm your host, Chris. With me today, I have a wonderful little crew. We are going to start with James. How you doing, James?
Hey, what's going on? You know what I realized on my way home here from my local bus stop is that my household is woefully underdecorated for the Halloween holidays, as everyone in my block has some sort of decoration. Even one had a pumpkin. Me, got nothing.
Just no
I still have
pumpkins?
I still have Serena congrat high school grad, sign. That's all I have to commemorate the upcoming
All right.
Halloween
All you need
festival.
is a Sharpie marker. Go out there
There you go.
and just all the E's become little pumpkins. There you go. You're
That
good.
sounds like work.
Just buy an orange and put it on your porch.
An orange.
No, I'm gonna have Eric do an assignment. Cut out an orange coloring paper, a pumpkin, and slap it on our front window.
And there you go. There you go. And of course, we have Brooksy. How you doing, Brooksy?
Doing great. Queen of the pod here. Still excited about the Raiders' victory this weekend. Not super excited about my Dodgers, but, hoping they pull it out.
Yeah. I know what you mean about this week. My Bears did not really do that great.
No, they
Well,
didn't.
someone got owned by Rodgers.
Hey, we sacked him multiple times. My defense did fine, but our young quarterback and our coach is not really pulling their weight yet. Give him a little time. Give him a little time to be as bad as the rest of the Bears quarterbacks, and then we'll move forward. And a little birthday earlier this week. Mike, how you doing? Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm doing well, trying to get some renovations done so I can finally turn this crack house into a crack home.
Is that on HGTV?
Not yet.
Now
Sorry, this is a load-bearing wall. Not anymore.
You got to patch a few bullet holes, things like that. So
that's right. Just a little spackle here, a couple of bricks there, some bulletproof glass over there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the Dodgers just hit a home run or something.
Grow lights in the basement.
Tied it up. Sorry.
And last, unfortunately, he's not here, but we will give a shout out. Happy birthday to
boy.
Our wonderful co-host Keith. Happy birthday, Keith.
Yeah,
Happy
the
birthday,
enforcer of the
Keith.
pod. Happy 21, man. Can't believe.
Happy 21.
Speaking of crack houses, Keith, I hope your crackhead economics folks give you something nice for your birthday today.
Oh my gosh.
I got the new iPhone 15. Like, we're not even at 15 yet. Don't worry about it. Trusted source.
Normalize crackhead economics.
All right, we've got 3 topics today. We're going to talk a little bit about the strikes going on. A little bit of culture we'll talk about. We'll go a little bit over DC FanDome. And then last but not least, we will talk about the new James Bond movie, No Time to Die. It is actually very much a time for James. Never mind. Wait. We'll move on. All right. Now, I don't know if you guys of course been paying attention. You guys pay attention more than I do.
Do we really?
We were going to start this discussion with the IATSE, which is the Hollywood Production Workers Strike. Which was 60,000 strong. We're going to strike for better pay and other workplace corporate culture responses. But as of Saturday,
breaks.
Right, as of Saturday, they did reach a deal, at least a first part of a deal, which means they're not going on strike right now. But some of the things I read is they got guaranteed meal breaks, which sounds like a basic thing. But every time you hear about one of these the reasons they're striking, you're kind of flabbergasted at what these corporations are not giving people. Guaranteed meal breaks, weekends, breaks between shifts, raises, and such things. But
Yeah.
the IATSE is not the only um, workplace striking we have seen, and that's a lot. I read today that there have been 12 strikes already this year of 1,000 or more, and that's not all the little tiny smaller places that have gone on strike. Places like John Deere, Kaiser, Kellogg, thousands, tens of thousands of workers going on strike, trying to get better shifts, better pay, job growth, fix some horrible corporate abuses and culture that we've seen. Have you guys been reading anything about this? Okay, I was.
What? I'm off mute now. No, I'm sorry,
There you
because I was
are.
saying the Yahtzee one I actually got wind of much earlier because of the industry that I'm working in. And at the time, the issue really had to do with the way that the TV contracts were structured. By the way, the Yahtzee is the International Alliance for Theater and Stage Workers, something like that. So
And
basically, people that help
yeah,
put together the sets for the TV shows that we watch, for the Netflix streaming movies and Hulu, all that stuff. These are people that do stage lighting, the carpentry, all that stuff, behind the scenes stuff. So there was an issue with the fact that these streaming service are blowing up, and they then don't have the same television deals like NBC, CBS, Fox,
mhm,
ABC with the IATSE program. So the IATSE guys felt like, listen, we're not getting our amount of like break time. We're not getting paid overtime, but in some cases we're working more hours to give you these binge TV shows than we would if we were doing like a 20 episode Law and Order. So, and at the time, the streaming services felt like, well, we don't have to pay you more than whatever's in our original contract. I don't know what you're doing with the regular, non-cable networks and TV streams. So I was aware of it pretty early on, and I'm glad to see that it was somewhat resolved. I think there was a compromise made that you won't really hear about in any like Variety magazine or Delight magazine. That they're probably going to try to renegotiate in a couple more years, because what we're seeing now is the streaming platforms are becoming just as big, if not bigger, than your standard TV platforms, which would mean more demand,
mhm.
more content, which would mean more sets, more stage, more workers.
Faster
Next thing you know,
turnarounds.
exactly, faster turnaround. So even the deal that was done today can't forecast for the next 5 years how the industry is really going to be with these workers. But yeah. So that part of the union strike, I was very aware of, and I'm glad that it worked out for a lot of reasons. Because
Right.
again, we're the audience, we're the one that's appreciating the content, including the people behind the scenes that are helping us get this
Yeah.
content broadcasted.
All right. Before I let you go next, Brooksy, I'm just gonna say, like, I did the most minor amount of theater in college, and the behind the scenes, the theater kids who come in and do the stage work their butts off constantly, and don't really get, obviously, the audience response. It's up to us to realize that there's so much work going on behind the scenes, and to support these people so they get proper pay, so we get the entertainment we love, but not at the cost of them doing labor without the proper pay and responses. All right, so Brooksy, go right ahead.
Um, I just want to say that I think this is one of the things that the pandemic has sort of brought to life a little bit is people had the ability to stop and think and realize, like, hey, I'm getting mistreated. Hey, these people are getting treated better, or I deserve more, or whatever it is. Like, we have the strikes going on, and at the same time we have this quote unquote great resignation going on, where people are just realizing they deserve more and they deserve better, and they've been at the will of these like corporate powerhouses for so long, and really it's the people that control like what's happening. It's not the corporations. And I think people are finally starting to realize that. And it's the same with all the strikes for like Hollywood and stuff. It's like, I feel like people were just made to think like, you're lucky to work here, you're lucky to be here, where like that's not true. they're lucky to have me. That's my thought. And I think that's what everybody should think. Because you can't operate a company without people. You can't operate Broadway without people. You can't have shows without people. Like, you just obviously cannot do it. And I think that's the thing that people have really stopped and realized, like, wait a minute, I was working 15 hours a day. And now that I'm not doing that, I'm enjoying my life. I'm seeing my children. I'm communicating with my wife or husband, or I don't want to be married to this person, or I don't want to live here, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But people are like stopping and realizing that they have ownership over their lives. And I think that's been like really the catalyst behind a lot of these strikes, because it's like, okay, now kind of sets are going back to normal, everything is going back to quote unquote normal, and people are like, no, 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 I don't want to go back to
Mm,
that shit. Like, that
yeah.
doesn't work for me anymore. And I think that's super super important, because I think it's the truth. Like, back in the day, and James and I have had this conversation, I think we even had it like before one of our podcasts recently, but like back in the day, you got up early, you worked really, really hard, you probably missed your son's little league, you like, gave up your weekends, you did all of this stuff for your job to get ahead. And that's what you did. And that's what was expected. And you worked for these places for 20 and 30 and 40 years. And then you got a fucking watch and a kick in the ass on the way out the door. And like, I mean, I think back in the day you got more, right? Like, my dad retired from Honda. I don't know if we're supposed to say that. My dad retired for a company where he worked at for like 40 years, and he got a huge pension, and
Hmm.
he started in the
Thank you
mailroom,
for the
and
Honda sponsorship, Honda. At
um he
heroespeak.com.
yeah, right. He retired a senior vice president, huge pension, like, did it the quote unquote right way, and it worked out for him. He's also a white male, so I think that helps a little bit as well. But my point is, that doesn't happen anymore. Like, James was just talking about a story where a former coworker of his worked for 20 years for a company or something like that, was supposed to retire, and then last year, because of the pandemic, got fired or laid off or whatever, and missed
Laid
all
off.
of laid off that pension and all that stuff, whatever it was that comes with it. But like, that's what happens now, right? Like, we have all this loyalty to
Hmm.
companies, and companies don't give a fuck about us. They only care about the bottom line. They don't
but
care about anything. And I think everybody is realizing that, and everybody's like, fuck you.
Strike, strike,
Um,
right,
strike.
so I was just going to
let's
say that
strike.
the tide is turning a bit. So, because if you notice, a lot of people are quitting their jobs now. It's becoming more of a buyer's market than a seller's market, right?
Yeah, it's also career changes too. Quitting
Yeah,
your job and just being F
a lot of
this.
companies are telling people, "Oh, we want you to come back to the office," and a lot of people are saying, "Nope, no thanks," or we need more
Yeah.
money, and companies aren't paying up, so a lot of people are just leaving now. So it's not just the entertainment industry. I think as a whole, since the pandemic, people are realizing, look, we're not getting what we're worth, you know. So I'm gonna try and find
But
something else.
but I think just to marry both your point and Brooks's point again is because of the pandemic and all of the different social unrest and everything that's happening, people realize that they can mobilize and create like a
Hmm.
single voice and say we as members of the IATSE, for example, we don't feel comfortable about you know this, that, and a third. We want to actually we want to be treat. We want the same hours, same pay for doing broadcast TV as we're doing for streaming services and platforms. So there you have it. So they're
Yeah.
more the people are more likely to get galvanized now around a single voice because of the pandemic. Because that's all we were doing in the pandemic. We were finding people who group on the internet, whether they're pro this or pro that. They'll get galvanized, and all of a sudden, boom, there'll be a protest, or boom, there'll be some sort of action that
But
would happen during the pandemic.
I'm
That's a
thinking
really
like,
great point.
but also prior to the pandemic, and as always, one of the things that has been kind of a constant ringing in a worker's ear for years now has been, hey, you're going to get replaced by technology. You're going to get replaced by technology. You better be careful because you're going to get replaced. And in some cases that's true, but we're finding out how kind of limited that is at this moment. If you're not on a factory line, there is a lot less they can do to replace you than you believe,
Yeah.
right? That you are important. We've seen this. Like literally, you walk down the street and you get your McDonald's, your Hardy, your Arby's, whatever, and they've all got signage in the windows. If they could
Yeah.
replace you with an automatic uh, hamburger flipper, they would have by now.
Yeah.
That tells you
Yeah.
is that shit doesn't exist. They still need you doing that, and
It's
all through
no,
and the,
actually, it's there. It's just not cost efficient. It's not efficient enough for them.
well,
It does.
and
It costs too much for them to do that than to pay somebody $7 an hour to do it. Right.
Yeah.
but the
Whereas
other
big
problem,
companies like Amazon, they have
the
some
Mm-hmm.
other
advantages.
the other thing that's come down the pike here is that they you're not as replaceable as they thought you were, and because otherwise they would have done it already.
Yeah.
And I lost my second point, which really upsets me because I was
Sorry.
going into something else. That's all
You
right.
were
Mm-hmm.
going someplace good. I could feel it, Chris.
Thank you. Just in general, a good note. So the average worker pay has raised 4% year over year. The problem is inflation has grew 5.4% year over year. So the problem is you're having trouble paying for the same stuff as you
Yeah.
did, before. Oh,
Before.
I know where I was going. Okay, so one of the questions that is constantly coming up is why are there so many jobs openings? Why are there so many
I hear that
openings?
all the time.
So there's a couple of factors. Obviously, number one, people leaving their jobs for better jobs. So you're going to get a lot more openings in lower paying jobs, especially companies that kind of refuse to increase their pay, right? Well,
Hmm.
also, how many people are dead or have had heavy health losses
Right.
that can't go back? Parents having to stay home or choosing to stay home with their children because of schooling. Just all sorts of a cascade of issues that has really shown how weak that what the American economy is built on isn't very stable.
Are we
I was
attacking
reading the other day.
capitalism? Whoa, 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 whoa,
No, no,
whoa.
no,
I'm always
not.
attacking
I mean,
capitalism, by the way.
capitalism in general, yes, comrades. But
Oh my
what
God.
I'm specifically talking about. So I was reading an article the other day about um,
Mike is
on demand.
salivating over there.
It was like basically on demand business where let's say you manufacture a drink, you're a drink manufacturing company. Well, you're just sitting there and you're not keeping a giant warehouse full of stuff to just make year round. You're waiting on like weekly or daily deliveries to produce your thing to send it out to the stores to make your money. But one of the things that hit really hard during the pandemic is the supply chain. Their shipping stuff's getting holed up in multiple places around, and
Hmm.
it's
Right.
Right.
hitting this idea that American businesses decided we got to keep super lean and make as much profit as possible and shove all that profit to the top.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the workers are leaving, their supply chains are screwed, the foreign factories aren't producing like they were, and so are they going to learn a lesson? Do we think anybody's going to learn a lesson out of all
No.
this?
There's many. Come on, look at the last 20 years of the American economy, global economy, from the dot-com burst in the early 2000s to 2008 recession. This is cyclical, man. We go through these cycles, ebbs and weaves, and 10 years from now, will be another issue. It's gonna bang the economy. You know,
Look, all I know is that it's right. When I go to Twitter, it's Biden's fault, right? So
like McCain said in 2007, the fundamentals of the economy is strong. That's
But they're
it.
not because the fundamentals of our economy is a kid at McDonald's right
yeah,
now.
but you got to look. If you look at historically, it's always been a Democratic president to help build the economy, and then it gets trashed by the Republicans.
Because
That's
the
because the
Republicans
Republicans are racist assholes.
Oh my God! Please
No,
cut
it's not
that
even
out.
about racism. They're only out for their rich engineering buddies. So if
Whoa,
we
whoa,
tax
They're
the
whoa,
they're
engineers,
they're rich
whoa!
white buddies.
oh,
Let's be
true.
clear.
But if we tax engineers at 95%, we can redistribute that wealth to the rest of us, and we'll be
To those
okay.
of us in human resources,
We
that sounds
just
That's
like a
lost
right.
great
like
idea.
we just lost like 30 subscribers.
Because all our
don't
subscribers are James's friends.
who are all
Only
Republicans.
only
Is that what you're
only
saying?
one
Well,
tenth.
They're
don't
all
forget a
engineers.
majority of my company too. They're all engineers, right? So
Yeah.
No, we're talking about elected people. We're not talking about your average human walking, talking, and watching our
Understood.
podcast. We're talking about the problem with elected people who will go in and
Yeah.
fight for a certain type of government that doesn't actually create a supportive government over its population.
Hmm.
Right? Right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So that's a little bit of our culture segment on striking and workers' rights.
We support
Well,
unions.
we support unions. That's right. We would have supported IATSE going on their strike, putting a halt to our wonderful content that we want to talk about because we care more about the workers' rights than we care about our content.
At this point, through the
Absolutely.
virus, I'm already used to not having content. I'm actually in shock with all the stuff we're getting now.
And you know what? I loved all the stuff a lot of stuff moving to streaming. It was so
Hmm.
freeing.
Right.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
So
these poor
so
guys
I
weren't
want
getting paid
more of
anything
that. So I
fair.
want better pay for them.
Yeah.
All
There you
right.
go.
So when we get back in a minute, we're going to praise the Soviet Union and we're gonna talk about DC FanDome,
Which is probably the same, actually.
workers' rights.
Wow.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Democrats and Republicans, you're all welcome.
Thank you for that clarification.
All right, so we're gonna move
While we're
over to
wait, the final corrections were
we're moving over to the geekdom here, and we are going to talk DC FanDome 2021, the virtual DC Entertainment Convention. We're mostly just going to talk about the live action movies. There were plenty of animated movies, series, and video games that they announced and talked about, but that's really not our main fare here. We will maybe have a chat when they come out. But as far as the biggest news for us here, it was definitely probably the top three, maybe top four. Let's start with Black Adam. We didn't
Hmm.
get much. We got a small sliver of actual footage, some animation, some power level touching. What did you guys think of Mr. Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam?
I mean, Dwayne hyped the hell out of this damn thing. Like, I follow him on all
The
forms of social
power
media.
structure of the DC universe has
Instagram,
changed.
Twitter. He's been hyping even his workouts. He's like last leg day before the trailer. I'm like, holy shit! Like this gotta be the biggest trailer of all time. And then we get it, and it's not really a trailer; it's a teaser trailer, and you barely see the Rock's form. You
You
know it's
see his
him.
chin. You see his
See
chin,
his chin. I think
his
what was
arm.
more interesting about this teaser was how he interacted with the whatever the guards that were there, and how he's
They look
elevating
like
them
Tomb
down.
Raiders or something.
Yeah,
Hey,
so
hey, the entire DCEU has been an archaeological dig. If you
yeah,
just like watch every movie, there was an archaeological dig in like every single one of them.
it gave me memories of Shazam, but I'm like, is this what The Rock was hyping for like a year? All those leg days? Like,
Hey,
I
he
don't
looks good
know.
in the suit. Just give him that. He
Was that
doesn't
really
need
him
padding. He
or the
doesn't need
stunt
padding.
double?
No,
Was that
that's
the
him.
stunt double?
He didn't have to do anything. It was definitely him.
I don't know. That's what I think, Mike. Chris.
All right, Mike, did you have any?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It's just yeah, like James said, it was like what 2 seconds
Mhm.
of anything, right? So I'll when the full trailer drops, that's probably when I get more
Yeah.
excited about it. So
So moving on from The Rock looking good, but nothing super exciting. Um, let's go right to the Batman. This was probably the biggest trailer. It's probably garnering the most response, and I found it rather positive. Now I'm a huge Batman fan. I've been a Batman fan for my entire life. Every surrounded, um, but it like I wasn't sure, and that's the Batman character in movies has gone through its ups and downs. We've lived through good and bad, so you don't know what to expect. So I think Robert Pattinson looks pretty solid. The style is very much, as they said, very deep and dark and sinister and the whole shebang. Like, okay, sure, let's go for it. And he's going against the Riddler, which is new. We haven't really gotten a good Riddler. I'm sorry, I forget what his name was.
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. Yeah, I know it was going for a fun Riddler, but let's try this out.
He was
So
better than
Riddler
the '60s Riddler,
and
but go ahead.
the Penguin looked awesome.
That's Joel Schumacher's fault.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is Joel Schumacher. But the Penguin looked awesome, and
Hmm.
I hear he's not in that very much, but he looks great. I
5
loved it.
scenes tops. Yeah, I heard.
All
Same.
right, guys, what did you think of the Batman trailer?
Let me hear Mike first.
I thought it was fine too. I'm not as excited as Chris was. Is My worry is that they're gonna pack too much like they did with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, with too many villains. So
Well, it doesn't
I
look like a
saw,
Yeah.
villain team up, which is good.
yeah. I mean, but yeah, I agree with you. Pattinson looked okay. He looked good in the suit there, and finally got to hear the voice, which was okay.
The
I'm still
space.
not. I'm not. I'm not down with that new Batmobile though. For some reason, it still looks weird to me. But
Well, this is supposed to be what, year 2, right? This is like
Year
Batman
two.
year
It's year
2.
two.
yeah.
Batman Year Two, based off a comic
Give
series.
him I give it a little bit because when it came flying through that explosion, I was like, yeah, I kind of like that. Very Dune buggy ish.
Mm.
uh,
All right,
so we'll
James.
see.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Good.
No, that's all I had.
Yeah. All right, James. Hit it.
Wow, man. I listened to Chris and I listened to Mike, and I agree with some parts of you guys. I disagree with some other parts of you guys, and I guess my take on the entire, because I'm a huge fan of Batman, much like Chris. Um, the first teaser trailer they released a while back, I poo-pooed the hell out of it. I thought it was trash. I thought it was terrible. Emo Batman. I was like, this is the Batmobile looked terrible. This trailer actually turned my position on it because I'm like now I'm more hopeful because what I took out of this trailer, turning my nerd brain off and just kind of looking at it as a piece of art and film, is that okay? So it's definitely going to be some high stakes action. There's going to be some stakes in general. Some of these characters, where it's going to be more serious. Uh, Maybe not so much of the Christopher Nolan series, but definitely better than the Joel Schumacher and even the Tim Burton series. Uh, and then the piece de resistance is Robert Pattinson, right? He's got to carry this film. I like this version. I also dislike this version, and this is the dichotomy in me. I think this Batman is more like the Punisher, which is not Batman, and I'm not cool with. But I also think this Batman is year two, so they're showing you how Batman just hasn't quite gotten the whole detective part of it, using his ability to control his emotions whenever he has to. But he's definitely violent and he can get the job done and get the task completed. Also, Robert Pattinson to me isn't has the body type of a Batman because I'm still used to either the cartoonish 55-inch flat screen TV shoulders or the Ben Affleck beef up UFC fighter. He looks more like a gymnast, cyclist, maybe wide
Yeah, but
receiver.
what always what
So
what bugs me about the linebacker version of Batman is that if you're walking around going, "Who is this Batman guy?" and like Bruce Wayne, who's just supposed to be like Playboy extraordinaire, comes
no,
in
you
looking like
can't
he
use.
benches 500 pounds on a hourly basis,
But
you're
Chris,
like,
you forget
hmm.
this world of DC also has a guy who has an S curl, and when he takes his glasses off, no one recognizes him as
No, I
Superman.
know it's all
So
ridiculous and
it's
it's
all
fun and
ridiculous.
except
So
except
I
the
mean, my
final
final
scenes.
take on this is I'm a little heck of a lot more, engaged about this now. I'm intrigued, definitely. Um, I'm hoping
You
for the
also have to
best.
remember that Keaton wasn't buff like that,
Yeah, I
and they
like.
had him, picking up guys, and
Yeah, but he
all
wasn't as
kinds of stuff. So
emotional. Like he wasn't as emotional as
No,
what
he
I'm
was
seeing right
very
now.
no,
stoic.
he was a mature Batman, right?
Yeah,
He was
I mean,
smooth, but he was
again,
also
But
the
older.
action
I'm just
scenes.
talking body type, right?
I think
Mhm.
the action scenes to me is what's. See, I'm like going back and forth,
Mm.
like a seesaw here. Dude, you can't tell me when you see the Batman was wailing the dude, or when you see him flying through. diagonal across the screen. When you see the Batmobile, which also like Mike, I'm not a fan of yet, but that scene and then him walking up and down like a upside down bat, that shit was crazy. That is,
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm
the
surprised Zack Snyder
cinematography.
never did that because that would be a Zack Snyder thing to do,
No,
and he
no,
never did that.
it's beauty that whoever the cinematographer is plus the director together made great images with what they were showing. And maybe those
You
are the best ones in the entire movie,
there's
I don't
two
know.
comic characters to
But
me that maybe three if you throw Wolverine that have the best graphic illustrations of all time in comic books with their
mhm.
Hmm.
silhouettes, Spider-Man and Batman. Those two characters, they just bleed across the page when it's drawn correctly with the capes and the muscle sinews and the positions, and the action shots. Those two characters, number one. And I
I always
think,
thought Spawn actually made
well,
it great.
Spawn to me is more like a copy of Spider-Man, no offense. You know,
What?
Yeah, I've always thought that Spawn was a well, we'll get to that. The whole symbiote version of Spider-Man. But I think they're taking still shots from the comics and they're trying to put it on screen, which is great visually, but as far as mentally, is that what we really want? And I'm going back and forth. I'm
Well, we'll
going
have
back.
to see. This is supposed to be a more detective-y Batman, which is definitely different than what we've normally gotten. So we'll let that fly, and we'll see
Yeah,
how it
sorry,
goes.
I beat that to death, but that's my favorite superhero of all time. I had to get that in
Yeah.
there.
Oh no, I completely understand. Completely agree. All right, quick. The Flash. So we see the Flash. We see the Flash has a
Flash,
flash.
we're done. Next.
Great. That's going to be the best movie of 2022.
So there's a second Flash. There's a Supergirl. There's a
Super. Oh,
Batman.
that's right, Supergirl.
Yeah, there's
There's
Supergirl.
there's Batman. Speaking of 1989 Batman, and
There might
possibly
be
we've
Ben
heard
Affleck Batman,
and
yeah.
Ben Affleck as well. Um, what did you guys think of the Flash trailer? Like this one was a little weird to me.
So it kind of looked like Flashpoint.
Yeah, which I'm not. I've been against from the beginning. I was hoping
Yeah.
we weren't just going to take the greatest this like where the Flash goes to and changes the entire world is not a place to start a character. And I've been saying this for a while, so I'm not happy with that. But
But
it
the
does
excuse, but the excuse is going to be, well, we're not starting the character because he's been around for how
half
many
a movie
movies?
or
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
four
but in
hour movie or
reality, they're
whatever.
really trying to reboot this entire damn
Right,
franchise, and this is the best way they can do it. It,
right.
it
Well,
makes technical sense to do this. It does.
Well, at least it's not so far. At least from the trailer, it is not a retread of the Flashpoint from the television show that we've been watching.
So, but the my issue is, what are we going to end up with at the end of this movie? What's going to be left of the universe, right?
Well, I guess that's the
So,
point, right?
like, who's
Yeah.
Batman? Are we
I don't.
Robert Pattinson? It can't be, right?
Maybe this Batman is like the Joker one-off,
I don't
Mm.
know. It's
Although,
weird because it felt like they were talking about Michael Keaton continuing on, right? As some
yeah,
sort
but
of
he's too
mentor,
old.
right? No, as some sort of mentor thing
To who?
for.
Ben Affleck?
I don't
Like
know. That's.
Batman Beyond.
They're like the same age.
I would hope with Batman Beyond would be really cool, but the the problem, like, I'm having trouble, and I don't know. Maybe it's me. Okay, has the MCU rotted my brain that I expect that not only
Cohesiveness.
do you make a good movie, but you make a cohesive set of movies that it relate, even if you don't story structure like Ant-Man 1 didn't feel like it required all the other movies for you to watch it, but it
Right.
Hmm.
still fits within that universe. It still
Neither
feels at
neither did
home.
Doctor Strange. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But this, I'm so confused. And if I'm confused, what the hell is someone sitting at home going to be like? Why are there three Batmans, two
Hold
Flashes, a
on, let's
bunch of
ask
super
our
people?
resident Zack Snyder verse fan here, Brooks. What does she think about this?
Is that me?
She probably didn't watch it.
She
I
Exactly.
didn't.
did
That's
not.
80%. That is my example right there. 80% of the DC audience is, our queen of the pod. They can care less about your continuity universe and all that jazz. They just want to see something nice in slow motion on screen with some, good shots, and they're
But
entertained.
but not to be mean, Brooks, put you center here, Brooks. But here's a question for you: if you go
Okay.
see this movie, and you said you liked what you've seen so far, and so you are going to see more of the same character Flash, more of Ben Affleck, but you're also going to see three or four new characters that are also versions of the same characters you've seen. Does that sound interesting to you? Does that sound like, oh, okay, I want to see more of that, or does that sound like what's going on?
Wait, so is this similar to how I forget what the TV show is, but there's like two Robins? There's an old Robin and a new Robin.
Titans,
Is this kind of
Titans.
Those, but those are two different people. This is literally going to
right?
be two Bruce Waynes
This is a
Different
multiverse thing.
universes, yeah.
and two
Yeah.
Barry Allens and
Oh.
whatever other characters they introduce, all interacting together at some point in some possible way.
I feel like it probably sounds, I mean, one of the things about the MCU that is really interesting is how everything ties together. It's interesting, but then at the same time, for me, like I can't keep up with it all, right? So I get lost a lot. And that's sort of my problem with the MCU. Although, like I said, I do find it all very interesting. I like watching the movies, but it helps if you can piece it all together and understand, how the people all work together and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of sounds like um DC is trying to do that, and they're trying to compete with the MCU, right? Feels
Yes,
like
and
they're kind of
if they want to fix it, they'll hire Kathleen Kennedy and Chris Terrio right away.
No. However, what they're doing is that they're foregoing that and they're just creating these different movies that may or may not connect, and people still
right.
watch them. Like people
But
still
that
enjoy
would
them.
be fine if I thought they were really just saying, okay, forget the multiverse, forget the universe. We're just making a movie. But it doesn't feel like they're
No, right.
they're
I agree with
floating
you.
in between the
But
two.
they did
It,
that. They did that with Joker. They just made a movie with the most
no, that
popular
I know
DC
they
villain of all
can.
time.
No, Chris, but Chris, I'm with Chris here. It's not that they can't because they have with Joker. You're right.
Yeah.
But the issue is they're making it sound like, well, we're either continuing the universe or rebuilding the universe.
Right. I think part of like the
I hear what you're
the
saying, Mike.
Suicide
I hear what you're
Squad
saying.
confusion
Yeah.
with audiences was, is this a sequel? It looks like a sequel,
Because there's one of the
Hmm.
remaining
but it
characters that are
but
there,
it
yeah.
also has the exact same name basically, because no one knows the difference between Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad. But it also wasn't advertised as a sequel, because that's always
Right.
a number two or a final or whatever. Like it it I don't think DC decided ever said, "Look, we're rebooting the universe. This is the new stuff. We're going forward." Or, this is sequels. We're gonna accept that these things exist and move forward. They just refuse to make the decision because they're stuck with this hashtag Twitterverse that's causing them,
Yeah, and see
pause.
now you've got the Peacemaker coming to HBO Max,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
is a spin-off of the
The Suicide
DCEU,
Squad.
but it
Yeah.
doesn't connect with. So they're trying to go the MCU, the Marvel route of the Disney Plus shows connect back to the MCU, but they have like this Peacemaker show won't match up with the
But
other
listen,
t-
there's only
Max
it's
shows.
either one or two things.
Mm,
Because we're beating this to death. One, this Flash movie is gonna reboot the entire DCEU. Boom. We don't know
mm-hmm.
what's gonna happen after that. Option one. Option two, they're going to continue to go on the release method of these movies that don't necessarily connect because they can't match with the MCU. They're going to find these onesie twosie characters. Blue Beetle, I heard at some point, is
Hmm.
in production, and they're gonna keep because they're still making money. It's not like they're starving. They're not making
Right.
Marvel money, but they're making
Right.
enough to
Right.
keep plugging and chugging these different movies. So either one or the other. Either they're gonna like screw you intellectual MCU nerds. We're gonna give the DC Snyderverse and the DC other hashtags what they want, and they're gonna pay us for it. Or we're gonna try something different, hire the right people, reboot through the Flash, and see where we go from there. It's one of these two that's gonna happen. And
The
a year
problem is
from
that
now,
they didn't really reboot. They picked up old characters from old movies
Mm-hmm.
and refuse to go, okay, Robert Pattinson, we're going to choose him as our Batman. Let's go for it. No,
Right.
they said, well, we'll take a little of this universe, take a little of that universe, and they're not
We're gonna see a
making a
DC
decision.
FanDome 2022. We'll know
All right.
exactly what path they're taking.
Okay. Okay. One note is actually the most excitement I got out of my 3 children was this
What?
Shazam.
Oh,
Was Shazam.
Yeah. That looked pretty
Shazam.
good, actually.
They loved the look of Shazam. They loved the energy of Shazam. They loved, and
mm.
it wasn't a trailer. It was mostly just a clips of them production and whatever.
Yeah.
But
Same with
My kids are Debbie Downers. They had no interest in Shazam too.
my man was showing off his movie too.
Aquaman.
Yeah, he
Mhm.
was. He was.
So
Hey, he
By the
is
way, I
still
have to
the
give a shout
biggest
out.
moneymaker of the DC.
I have to shout out again to the CW Smallville reunion special that they did because I
yeah,
thought it
I
was
saw
really
some of that. That was
cool.
good.
They
Hmm.
had both the Lex Luthor, Michael Rosenbaum, and what's his name Wells, Tom Wells, who's Clark Kent Superman, and then near the end they brought in Kristen Kruk, who played Lana Lang.
Hmm.
And then they had small vignettes of like Lex Luthor's father, who's now in the Walking Dead show. Oliver Queen, who's now in This Is Us, talk about
Hmm.
happy anniversary. I think it's their 25th anniversary or whatever it is, anniversary, 20-year anniversary is what it was. It's only like 30 minutes. If anybody could watch it who's a fan of Smallville growing up or as an adult back then, take a look at that. It's on YouTube.
All right.
Yeah, they also had the cast of Superman and Lois talking about season 2, which I'm looking forward to that one for sure. So,
Yeah,
and
same.
they tried to hype up Supergirl as much as possible, but nobody was having it.
That show needs to
Supergirl,
end.
Batwoman, the whole shebang.
Batgirl, all that
Ugh.
stuff needs to end. I can't believe
Well,
DC Legends,
Batgirl's a movie. It's going to be coming.
Well, but he's talking about
the
Batwoman, the
TV
Yeah,
show.
CW show.
Batwoman. Yeah. All
The
right.
trash.
So that's a quick look at DC FanDome. And when we come back, we are going to talk No Time to Die.
Ah, shit. Time for me to die out of here.
Wow, that was dramatic.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We are here to talk 2021's No Time to Die, the theater released new James Bond movie, and Daniel Craig's last James Bond movie. This was directed by Kari Joji Fukunaga.
Don't try it.
Wow.
It's not too bad. Fukunaga is not too bad.
What? What'd
He
you
Can't wait
call
for
me?
the I can't wait for the end of the year bloopers of Mike's
Fuck my what?
Chris's pronunciation.
um
That's our
uh,
word. You can't use that.
he he direct. You might have seen his direction of True Detective series.
Hmm.
So this stars Daniel Craig, Anna. I would say it stars Anna de Arias, but she doesn't really star in it. She's in it for
He-
like 10 seconds. Rami Malek, Leia Sandhu, and Lashana Lynch. And this is the story of a retired, in love, sober, all the things I don't want Bond to be, James Bond, as he's pulled back in for a dangerous new world ending technology. This is James Bond, No Time to Die.
The
Now,
MacGuffin.
there is going to be spoilers. We can't talk about this without spoilers. So just so you know, spoilers.
Look, we're doing you a favor anyway.
That's right. This is Brixie. How long was this movie?
It was like
17
3.5
hours.
hours. It was ridiculous.
was-
With the previews, it was
too
literally
long, right?
3.5 hours. Yes.
No, it flew by.
All right. So
No.
currently, the total gross $75 million. I'm looking up
Is
the
that all of
numbers.
just England?
No,
Like
no,
Great
no.
Britain?
No,
So,
domestic gross is
US
$99 million.
U.S. domestic gross, according to the numbers.com, 101 million. So
Mhm.
we're gonna have days, little things.
Yeah, all of our British
International,
expatriates.
international, 348 million. So it's pulling in $500 million. So it's pretty solid.
I don't get it.
Wow.
But as we see, movies is pretty much back, except for Knights having a fight for some reason.
The Last Duel.
That movie tanked.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
You've heard of this. You've seen this, right? You know what that is.
It is unavoidable. It is your destiny. Is that why you are here?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Knock that shit off.
So, I don't know. Where do we want to start this discussion? Do we want to talk about the
Well,
big?
we could talk about the plot for a bit. I would.
No, but before we get to the plot, let's talk about the impact of this movie closing out the James Bond character Daniel Craig and the legacy he's had. Before we get to this specific
All right,
movie.
go right ahead, James. Do
Yeah,
that.
so there's been 4 movies with Daniel Craig. Thanks for correcting me earlier, off camera, Chris. And I believe Quantum Solace was the first one we were introduced as this version of
Casino
James
Royale
Bond.
wasn't.
Casino
I'm sorry,
Royale,
We
sir.
Casino
we
Royale.
opened
Sorry.
strong. Casino
And for those
Royale.
of us who grew up at, watching Roger Moore in the 60s and Sean Connery, and,
60s.
and sorry,
How
yeah,
old
How
are
old are
you?
you, man?
I
You
was
grew up
watching
in the
them.
60s? Wild.
You should
See
have
how,
seen
see how
James's
young I look?
afro back then.
I know. So seeing the progression of these James Bonds, and Daniel Craig gave us a fresh face that was a little more athletic than Pierce Brosnan and Sean Connery and those guys. And he was a little bit more of he wasn't like a womanizer like his predecessors, but he was definitely, pretty savvy, with the female actresses that played opposite of him. And I thought it was a modern version of James Bond, although the caricature of James Bond itself has a lot of negative stuff. I'm not gonna get into that, especially if you're just looking at cisgendered um, male toxicity. But I understood that Daniel Craig was trying to do it from a point of view where he's taking it a little bit more elevated with more action. Because again, to me, Mission Impossible has now supplanted the James Bond franchise. So Daniel Craig is left with this franchise up until this movie where he's got to make it relevant in the modern times to go against like the Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise and all the other movies that are coming out with the spy thrillers. The Jason Bourne at one point, the last movie he did was kind of like, so the legacy to me is like, all right, we get it. This is like the oldest IP right now in existence for a movie icon. This movie's coming out. We're gonna watch it. We're gonna spend the money. Made 300 something million. We want to see how this particular actor goes out as a character of James Bond, knowing that there's future stories about a female 007, a black female at that 007, all this other stuff. So I think the legacy of 007 is still strong, despite my own personal take of the movie. And I want to make sure that we start talking about the legacy of the movie before we really dig into the terrible plot.
I don't know. I think this Bond tried to do something that previous Bonds don't do, which is actually tried to make a story, like a career kind of a story. I don't think it was entirely successful because like I have zero memory movie to movie. Like I can piece together like I remember him getting hit in the balls in the first one. And I remember his girlfriend dying in the one and like and like this I can piece together things like that, but other than that like it's I guess from this movie, it felt like it was supposed to actually be this long storied career that we followed and were interested in, and a love story and a this and that. And I just never got there personally through this series.
Mm.
Brooksy, have you watched any of the Bonds besides this one?
I have. I think I've watched all of the ones with, at least with Daniel Craig.
Spectre, Quantum of Solace,
Yeah.
Casino
Casino
Royale.
Royale. Yeah.
Casino Royale. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen them all. The Daniel Craig ones. I've seen other ones before. I just wouldn't be able to tell you because I have a bad memory. But yeah, I mean, I also agree. Like it didn't feel like this like saga or legacy story to me either. It was just like I kind of was like, wait, what is happening? Like he's with this. I don't know. I didn't remember. Maybe I should have watched the one before, but
Well, it was
it,
7 years ago. 7 years ago, and
I
you're
know
trying
it.
to
right.
make a sequel.
Man, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with yeah. But go
So
ahead.
I'm with you there, Chris, because I think 6 months ago, I think we were getting ready for this movie before it got delayed again. I was getting ready, and I was like, you know what? I don't remember anything. Like I remember a poker game. I remember some guy trying to steal water. I remember Spectre was trying to do something, and that was about it. So I was like, I better rewatch everything right before this movie comes out. But even watching this new one over the weekend, I didn't remember again. You know, most of the what I had seen like 6 months ago, and I didn't like the. I don't like the fact that I had to watch a James Bond movie and remember something that happened in another James Bond movie. I appreciate the days of I could pop in Doctor No and just watch it, and then I could pop in Moonraker and just watch it. You know, because I know who James Bond is, and I know he's got a mission, and it has nothing to do with anything else, any other movie.
Nah.
Right.
You know?
James Bond is a couple of things. He's a drunk, he's a slut, he's a killer.
Right.
And that's basically what I want to know about James Bond.
Yep.
Right?
But
Am
the
I
reason why I brought up my little soliloquy earlier is because I think when they casted Daniel Craig, they were looking for a way to lengthen the character similar to Tom Cruise's character in Mission Impossible, where you kind of need to know some events of the previous films to get an interest more in this character. Otherwise, maybe it's because the current generation of film audiences, like if you're just giving me a James Bond who may or may not exist in the same continuity of that universe, you're like, what do I care? Where's this guy going? What new gadgets is he gonna show me? That I'm gonna be interested about. No, I'd rather watch Tom Cruise on his third girlfriend of the series, and he's trying to like stop a villain from the previous movie that now
so
has
you
another
want a
villain.
James Bond movie but with Tom Cruise is what you're telling
Yeah,
me.
I think the culture of the spy thriller, which James Bond originated,
Hmm.
changed while James Bond was still stuck in a fuddy-duddy old English
I don't
chaps
think
type of
so. The
thing.
things you're describing that Tom Cruise is doing on his third girlfriend, having an action-packed adventure, trying to stop a simple government, bomb. Like those are all James Bond things. This James Bond, the Daniel Craig James Bond wanted us to by the second I guess it was the second movie wanted to retire, kept talking about retirement. He was so old. He
Yeah.
can't do this anymore. And
Same thing
then
with Tom Cruise in the third Mission Impossible
then
movie.
we
He's
had to
getting
learn
married,
about his
retiring.
past, his childhood, how horrible it was. Okay, now he's a real person. He's not just a funny spy that may or may not be sharing the name with a dozen other guys.
Right.
He's now a real person with a real past, with real friendships and heartaches and whatever. And now he's married and child and sacrifice. Like this is now deep stuff. But I don't give a crap. Like it was felt like I was supposed to come into this going, "Oh, he's still with her. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my god, he has a kid." Like I felt none of that. Did you guys feel this? Like is
No,
it
No,
just me?
No.
no,
I
no.
didn't care at all.
Like what and is it part of it that I go into James Bond cuz this is the character. He's a sexy dude. He finds sexy women. They have a thing. One of them tries to kill him and then he stops an international plot in a fun and exciting manner. Like that's it. Like
Yeah.
it's
No.
a simple theme.
And the
I
thing is, like, when Vesper died in the first one,
Hmm.
you felt bad.
yeah,
Hmm.
it
Like it was
added a
like,
little bit.
okay, like he cared about somebody. But 4 movies later, I don't want to still know that he's, you know,
Visiting her grave
He's
and there's
visiting a
right,
this
gravesite. He's grieving over her, which
I
was,
went but that what that did to me was, "Oh yeah, there was a woman who died. Then who's this woman?
yeah,
right.
Right.
that was
That's how
Is he
I
bad.
in love
felt.
Yeah,
twice? He's in love
that was bad.
twice?"
I don't know. I'm trying to defend this movie, man, and I have
The thing is, this
remorseful.
is not the worst of his movies.
It's not. And it's
So
not a
it's like in
terrible
the middle
movie.
there for me, right?
It's
So
not the worst of his James Bond movies you're talking about.
Daniel Craig, right? It's not
Yeah.
the worst of the Craig James Bond movies.
Spectre is worse.
Yeah,
Oof,
Is it?
oof.
Yeah,
I
Spectre
don't
is
know about
worse, and
that.
so is Quantum of Solace easily.
Oh,
Oof.
I think I liked Quantum of Solace.
Am I
Yeah,
the only one who actually liked the name Quantum of Solace? I think
I
it's
like the
actually
name,
No,
but the
I
I
like
movie
the
liked
didn't
it.
make
name.
much
I like
sense.
Spectre too. I like all the
Yeah,
names, but that has nothing to do with the movie we're watching.
okay. I just know people hated the name, and I just always
I
like,
thought
okay.
Casino Royale was better, and I thought Skyfall was better.
Those are two like the two best of the.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking the character is just antiquated. It
He
just needs to
is,
retire.
but it's not because you can't update the world around James Bond and make him clash with the world and see this kind of old guy and how he clashed. That's interesting. You just changed the character to be a different thing than he is. You said,
Hmm.
okay, so instead of what he was, where you're trying to add characters that challenge James Bond and make him something or update him a little bit, you just said, okay, he's not that guy anymore. He's retired, in love, sober, and this and that, and which is boring James Bond. I don't
Mhm.
want daddy James Bond. I want daddy James Bond.
What?
Please make that the cold opening.
You guys know what I mean, right?
Yeah, we know what you mean.
Sure.
Yes. Unfortunately, I did
You nasty.
understand what you meant.
All right.
You
So this whole
nasty.
thing felt like
You
the
nasty.
plot wise is
Mm.
basically a couple of things that mishmash together is
Hmm.
for some reason somebody's going after the evil organization of Spectre, which I didn't remember was still a
I thought
thing.
they already closed the lid on them, but go
They
ahead.
did, but because he's in jail, Blofeld's in jail, and that's part of the thing here. And what we find out is that Rami Malek's character was his family was killed by Spectre, and so
Terrible character too.
so I don't know why the government is going after the people killing Spectre agents. Why do you care? Except they steal a weapon of mass destruction that the government created to kill Spectre agents. And then,
This feels
then
a
you
little
mix
bit like
in
Ghost Protocol, Mission Impossible, but done wrong. And
the whole James Bond has a secret family retired bit, and there's your movie.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, the whole Rami Malek's character. Excuse me. It was so. I think Rami Malek did a good job playing that character that was poorly written.
okay, all right, I
Same
can
with
agree with that.
Christoph Waltz. I thought he played a good Blofeld, but it was just written so poorly for that character. You know what I mean?
mhm.
It could have been so much better, but
I agree on that.
like underused, I guess. Rami Malek was only in the movie for like 20 minutes, right? If that.
The part that
Yeah,
I
he
saw
was in
in
the
it,
beginning. You
it was
saw a
terrible.
Yeah.
part of his face,
That was
and
terrible.
then he didn't appear for another like hour.
Yeah.
I didn't get that far.
And then, like, you were talking about the gadgets and stuff. We didn't see any cool gadgets till three
And
quarters of
that's
the
been the
movie.
James Bond. It's like saying
I
Batman.
know.
You got to see the Batmobile, right?
And actually,
James
what did
Bond. You got to see the spy gadgets.
you got to see the car, you had the watch, and the only thing I think we saw was the watch, except for the cool glider submarine plane. That I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm.
And the car that was bulletproof that was like spinning
Yeah, but we've
around.
seen
Yeah,
that
he,
already in previous
Yeah, but
iterations
there
of.
was nothing special about that car
Yeah,
this time. I think.
we've seen that
True.
before in previous
it
Hmm.
James
was a
Bond
cool
movies.
chase, though. You always want a
Yeah.
cool
Right.
chase.
Right.
So, Brooksy, what did you think of the cast here? Was there anybody that stuck out to you? Um, their part, their future, their past, what?
No. Nope.
Okay.
I thought
Mike.
Ana de Armas did a great job, but she was
Who
only in
was
it for
that?
10 minutes.
So she's the girl.
The Cuban girl
The
that was helping him in Cuba.
remember she's like,
Oh
I've only
yeah.
been training for 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Yes.
wearing the black
Yes,
gown,
yes.
and she
Yep.
was
I liked her a lot.
kicking ass. Yeah,
Yeah.
so she
But
was
That's true.
great.
what was the point of that section for her character? Like, was she there? I felt like, okay, so she's gonna kick some ass, but then she didn't turn out to be the 007 the
Right.
new 007. That was Lasana, who did a great job also.
Yes, she
Lashana
did as
Lynch
well. Right.
did some awesome scenes, but it was like they dropped that other girl in. Normally they would drop a new woman in for James Bond to that's
Have
his thing.
sex with.
Yeah,
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
But he's in love, so he can't do that. So now you just drop her in there to have a cool scene and then leave.
but it wasn't just that he was in love; he was grieving over his breakup because
Yeah.
the other girl left him.
Oh, that's
So
right.
what
They
about
broke up
Vesper
at the
who
beginning.
died?
that's what I mean. Not only did
Oh,
one girl die, the current girlfriend broke up with him because he
yes,
wouldn't let go of Vesper.
yes.
So
No, I felt
No.
like he broke up with her because he found out that her dad was Spectre.
Yeah, she had a
And
secret that he didn't know at the beginning. How did they
right.
find us? How did they find us?
No,
And then he was like,
right.
it was her. And then
He
he puts
blamed.
her on a train and was like, get the fuck out of my life
Yeah,
forever.
you're right. You are
Right.
correct. Right. He
Get the
blamed her,
fuck
but
out
it
of my
wasn't
life.
her fault.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that. You'll never
Yeah.
find me. That's when I
Yeah.
stopped watching the movie right there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I thought like the transition from him being 007 to the other woman being 007 could have been like more interesting, but it didn't really, I don't know. It it
They
wasn't.
didn't
I thought she did a
follow.
great job. She was great with the accents. She was great with her skills, her fighting skills. So I think if they keep her
Yeah,
on as a double O, that would be great.
Yeah, they
So
didn't follow through with that though. That's
yeah,
that's the
it
right,
point
was
of
right.
conflict
it was
there.
kind of at the end when she was like, "Oh, would you reinstate his 007 number?" And I was like,
I didn't like
"Why?
that.
Why?
Right.
Right.
Why do you need to do that? Who cares? You're
Yeah.
double O
Nobody.
Seven now. Why do you care?" Like it
Yeah,
didn't
that
make
was
Much,
that
you
silly.
part
know how
didn't make
much
sense to me.
controversy that had when people heard about it even before the movie came out?
Oh, I know,
That was huge controversy last year. In fact, we talked about it on our pod.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're being
Yeah, it
too
was
woke.
silly.
Too woke.
Yeah, it didn't actually do anything. It was because of the whole retirement thing, which I didn't think
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
so the big controversial weapon here is a nanobot that infects the bloodstream so that it, but only targets a specific DNA set, so you can target families to kill while sending the weapon on a travel person to person.
Created by
Yeah,
Hank. Hank
it was
Pym
DNA
created that.
specific, a DNA specific weapon, right? We've seen that
Right.
before, but I can't
Created
remember
by
what.
Hank Pym.
Right. So this felt to me, I was like, okay, is that cool? Is it not cool? I don't know. But the whole thing, the way the whole movie concluded with the end of James Bond, it felt like that they had a question that they started this movie building with, which was, how do we kill James Bond? What will keep James Bond dead and keep him from coming back? Well, we can't let somebody else kill him. We've got to make him basically kill himself. So it felt like how do we make James Bond kill himself? And that's what like after the end I was like, "Oh, they're going to make him so he can't go near the woman or his child." But no, they just fucking killed him.
Which I kind of knew was
Right.
going to
Well,
happen.
they did that. They did both. The reason he was like, fuck it, I'll just die was because he couldn't go next to his girl or
Right.
child.
Which I like if this was just a movie outside of the IP of James Bond and there was this guy and he was in love and he had a kid and he went through this whole thing, but he had this dangerous job and then it comes around and you can't be with the people you love. That's an interesting come around in the story that you would rather die because there was a point at which was it Blofeld who said something about your child you would sacrifice it yourself for your child.
Hmm.
So somebody said that, and that
Mm.
earlier in the movie, but of course that comes back around. But it's like James Bond is not that. Like it just doesn't feel right for me for that character to suddenly be this. That's his. He's the family man who sacrifices himself for his kid.
Yeah, that's not part of the character type of the character. Yeah, yeah.
No, it's like I guess it's the question about the character. Did we get a good ending for Daniel Craig or did we get a good ending for James Bond? I feel we got a good ending for Daniel Craig.
I say neither. I think
Yeah,
Daniel
but
Craig
you didn't see
deserved a
the ending.
better story. Oh, I'm sorry. I read the
Oh,
entire plot, and I think it was terrible.
no, I think it
But
was good for Daniel Craig. I wouldn't say so much for James Bond,
Yeah,
but I
because
still think he would have sacrificed. I think James Bond would sacrifice himself. Like, say the weapon was targeting, the weapon was going to target millions of people. So I don't think it was just about him saving his
no, because
daughter.
I understand him going back. He's like, oh no, the blast door is closed.
Right.
I got to go back and do it. But then the normal James Bond is, oh, I got to go back and I got to open the doors and then I got to make a last minute escape into this hidden sub underneath the base that I jump off a
Right.
giant
Hmm.
cliff as
swim through
explosions go
scuba
off.
gear. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's James
Right,
Bond.
that's James Bond. Like just barely surviving at the last second. and then I can't go near my family, but I can go back to my normal life of, spy life. I go
Yeah.
back to my spy life. But, you know, the whole idea that he stood at the top and just like accepted death, like it just, yes, good for Daniel Craig. He got his people
Send
remember
off. Yeah.
people remember this movie
You know what?
for
Yeah,
that.
I take it back. Maybe it's good for him because I think in about 5 years they're gonna reboot the entire franchise and have a new character. None of this stuff's gonna connect to that version in five
Well, it
years.
shouldn't. It should just be
Yeah,
fun. But
you're gonna get a
Amazon
young Harry Styles or whomever.
got
Um, and there
That
we have it.
Chalamet dude.
yeah.
And they,
Amazon just
I mean,
purchased. I
Chalamet. He
believe
was with the
Amazon
Prince.
purchased the rights here, so we could get an Amazon series or movies or whatever. They have the money. Brooksy, is there
Yeah.
anything left you want to say about James Bond: No Time to Die
It was way
before we
too
grade it?
long. Did I already say that? It was way too fucking long. Like, who has that much time to watch a movie? I don't know why I didn't realize it was going to be that long. But first of all, previews. 30 minutes of previews. Like literally every single movie has 30 minutes of previews.
That's normal.
Legitimately 30 That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, because the previews
So,
aren't before your start time; they're after
Yeah.
the start time.
And don't forget
right.
the ads before the start time, the Coca-Cola
Right.
commercials, the all that
Like I
stuff.
used to get excited to go to the movies and like if the movie started at 8, right? And I got there at like 7:45 or 7:50, I was like, "Yay, now I get to the previews." Now you get there at 7:50 and you have to wait because the previews start at 8 and then the previews go from 8 to like 8:30 or 8:40. It's so dumb. And then you
Isn't
have
it
a
terrible
2
getting
hour,
old?
it is,
No, but
a
she's
2
right.
hour
She's right.
and
She's right.
45-minute movie. Like I'm not getting to the movies early ever again. I just want to say that out
And then
loud.
some movies you gotta wait through the post credits to catch a post credit scene, and you're
Yeah.
reading all the production. Oh, Australia production team, Atlanta production team, Iceland production team. I'm like, oh my
It's
god.
ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
All
That's all
right,
I have
so
to
I'm
say.
gonna.
Well, that's why they used to have intermissions in movies
Well, this
Right.
movie
back in the
needed an
day. They
intermission.
used to have
I
5 minute,
also needed
like,
a
yeah.
nap.
All right, so you're gonna tell me your favorite Bond, not Bond. Well, you can say your favorite movie if you want. Your favorite Bond actor
Hmm.
and your grade for this movie. Okay. James, why don't we start with you?
Sean Connery, Diamonds Are Forever. Favorite Bond actor, favorite Bond movie. My grade for this one's incomplete since I did not watch it entirely. So I'll give it incomplete.
Though it is the final, you are losing points on your grade because it is the final and you're still an incomplete.
Yes, I like to drop the course and go for another class.
All right, Brooksy.
Okay, I cannot think of a good movie, like a good Bond movie, a good Bond character or Bond movie. That's what I'm trying to say. I have a really bad memory. I should have prepared for this in advance, but I did not. The grade I would give this is probably a C minus, mostly because it was just too long and it wasn't long in a good way. Like it didn't keep me entertained. I wanted to take it out. But it wasn't like horrible. You know what I mean? Like the acting wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst. Like there were some interesting scenes. Um the video, what is that? The videography was okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like D for doo-doo worthy,
Right.
D
but
for
Right.
doo
No.
doo.
Well
no, I said C
produced is what
minus.
you're looking for, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for
Yeah.
helping me be succinct. It was well produced. It was just too long and didn't keep me entertained.
All right. All right. We're having a little bit of trouble with Mike. I'll grade this as a B minus. I think it's probably where I'm going to leave it. Too high. I don't know. I thought the production was good. The action scenes were good, which I go in for a good action movie that way. I just thought it was a little overwrought for a Bond movie. I want him to be a little bit more flippant, more fun. My favorite Bond is actually Pierce Brosnan. I think
Mm,
he had the.
it's a good
I
choice.
love. I love the fun of his movies. They're
Hmm.
all a blast, and I would have a tough time going between Goldeneye and Die Another Day. I love. They are. They're fun, but that's the character, man. That's the character.
Yeah,
I love
GoldenEye is
it.
great. That's a great one.
It is. And what's his name playing the 006?
Right.
Um
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean was great. Great.
Yeah.
So, those are my favorites. It may be a little simple as far as a Bond movie goes. I think they're fun. My favorite scene ever is when Pierce Brosnan comes flying through the brick wall, driving a tank, and he adjusts his tie while he's driving the tank. Like, it's my favorite Bond moment of all time.
No, Man
So,
with the Golden Gun,
all right,
classic.
Mike.
All right. So I think for me, it's going to be Roger Moore. He's the one I grew up
Mm-hmm.
with watching. He's the one that started me on James Bond, and probably I think it's still up there for me. It's probably one of the goofiest of the movies, but Moonraker is
Dude, I
probably up
remember
there
how
for me.
it's
So
those movies, the Roger Moore movies, A View to a Kill. Uh,
yeah, View to a
yes,
Kill with Grace Jones. That one it
that
was
movie is
out there too.
memorable.
So um, yeah, exactly. As far as this movie, I'm gonna give it a C. So like I said, it was like not the worst, but not the best. Like middle of the road for me in terms of
Yeah,
Daniel
I
Craig
really
Bond
think his
movies.
first one was an A movie.
It was the best
Um,
one. The first
Yeah.
one, Casino Royale, was the
Mm,
best one.
Casino Royale was so good,
I
and
agree.
it felt like a breath of fresh air for a Bond movie. Like, it had
right.
everything I wanted a Bond movie, plus like pumped up a level. But
It was a
Yeah,
fresh
they
take.
they should have ended it. Should have ended it. She died, and
he goes back to being
that's it.
Bond. Like,
Yeah, he moves on.
you had your love interest, you had that sorrowful thing,
Yeah,
and just
but in the next movie, they had him drag it out. You know.
drag it out. The retirement stuff was,
Yeah,
though it kind of worked in some of it, but I don't know. They took it went too way too far with all that stuff.
although I will say also I did love Judy Dench as
Mm.
M
Oh, she was a
in
great M. She was
her series.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
in this
agree.
series.
So I just did a quick cross check here with Casino Royale was released in 2006,
mhm.
and Mission Impossible 3 was released in 2006, and that's when I think
Hmm.
this shows the Daniel Craig James Bond tried too much to play with the Mission Impossible franchise by using some of the same gimmicks and lost sight of what made
Mm,
Casino Royale really good and the James Bond character
yeah,
really good. They tried too much to copy Mission Impossible and Tom Cruise because
yeah,
if you go back and look at Mission Impossible 3, he was supposed to retire. He met the girl. What's the name? Who went to
yeah. The wife,
Scientology?
Michelle
Yeah, I
Monaghan.
Correct.
remember.
Then
Yeah, they
Ghost
had.
Protocol, which is like their version of
Hmm.
Spectre, Rogue Nation, all that stuff. You start seeing where the James
Yeah,
Bond franchise is. It's like off the rails based on the Mission Impossible franchise.
yeah. See, Spectre was supposed to be that one because we were building up to this big baddie, right?
Hmm.
And then Spectre was supposed to be that one, and it just kind of was a big letdown. So,
Yeah, it never felt like
what the?
like he needed a much longer time to be fighting a big organization like Spectre. They're always coming out of the walls. He's always going after him.
Right.
Never quite gets there, but they captured him in like 2 movies.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, guys. I think that's where we're gonna leave it for tonight. Thank you for the great discussions. And Mike, where can everybody help us out on social media, please?
So, as usual, you can follow us at Heroes Peak on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Share our videos. Hit the bell in the corner to get notifications. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think of this new Bond. And if you've seen the Batman trailer, let us know what you think of that too.
Please leave a
Absolutely.
comment. Do not just view and not say anything and lurk. Please.
Yeah, James, next time I would like you to bring the name of that. There was a few people who comment. We should pull their names and shout them out.
Yes, we're gonna start doing that. You lurkers. I'm
Okay.
gonna stop shouting you out on the pod live.
All right, everybody. Thank you again, and we will see you next week.